I watched RFK Jr.'s recent speech responding to President Biden announcing he's dropping out of the race, and I gotta say, RFK makes two incredible points that neither Trump or Biden make. The first one, I've never heard Trump or Biden mention this at all, to be honest. And the second point, they kind of talk about it sort of in the abstract, but I want to focus on the first point here because Trump or Biden never talk about this, and this is perhaps the biggest issue facing not just America, but the entire world, and nobody talks about it.
Neither of these presidents is going to deal with the chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, 60% do. Diabetes alone, when I was a kid, the typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his career, or a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walk through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. And nobody's talking about why this is happening. The cost of dealing with mitochondrial disorders in our children, dysfunction, which is diabetes, is now greater than our military budget. The biggest cost to our nation is the cost of treating chronic disease, $4.3 trillion annually. It's 5 times the price of our military budget.
So RFK is completely correct. This expenditure that the U.S. and other major Western countries spend on healthcare is unbelievable. And to be honest, the majority of it is due to poor lifestyle, which I'm going to get to here. But this is a chart of the U.S. healthcare expenditure as a percentage of the GDP. In 1960, U.S. spent about 5% of its GDP on healthcare. Today, that number is close to 20%. You see that little tick up is because that's 2020, that's COVID. But right now it hovers around 18%. But that's an incredible number. As RFK said there, over $4 trillion in healthcare expenditure going towards, to be honest, chronic disease. And a lot of the chronic disease is preventable. As the CDC says here, most chronic diseases are caused by a short list of risk factors: smoking, poor nutrition, physical inactivity, and excessive alcohol use. Some groups are more affected than others because of factors that limit their ability to make healthy choices. So what percentage of healthcare spend in the United States is on chronic diseases? So this is, again, from CDC, the impact of chronic diseases in America. 90%, according to this, again, this is from the CDC, of the nation's $4.5 trillion in annual healthcare expenditures are for people with chronic, and this is lumping in mental health conditions as well. So by any measure, though, that is an incredibly high number. And again, most chronic diseases are caused by risk factors due to poor lifestyle choices. And perhaps it's not politically popular to talk about this stuff, but here, according to the CDC, 41.9% of adults in the United States were obese from 2017 to March 2020. And that's up, look, a lot, by the way, from 30.5% in 1999 to 2000. Here, the average body mass index for U.S. adults, right here, down there in 2023, the average BMI based on measured height and weight, which is, BMI is not a perfect system, but if you're measuring huge populations, it's pretty good, pretty helpful for that because it's easy to measure. But 29.23, and here, according to the World Health Organizations, adults with a body mass index of 30 or higher are considered obese. So the average American is right on the line of being right at the top of overweight, just about obese. So the average American is basically just about obese. That's the average American. And again, that leads to so many health risks, which is outlined from the CDC, which can lead to chronic disease, which just in general sucks because it's chronic disease. You don't want to live with that. But in terms of the expenditure of the country, it's also like bankrupting the country. It's incredibly expensive. It's not just America, but it's other countries as well. All this poor lifestyle and all this excess from, in a way, it's good because there's like food readily available, but a lot of it's full of sugar, and the expenditure of this, trillions and trillions of dollars. And it's obviously not a pleasant thing to talk about. It's a very sad thing to talk about, really, when you think about it too much. But somebody should. If you're in politics, you got to talk about the things that are difficult to talk about. And this is clearly one of them, and is an issue that more politicians, not just in America, but around the Western world, around the world in general, should definitely be talking about way more, just in terms of it's a humane thing to do. It's the right thing to do to get your citizens, hopefully, to be healthier and live longer lives and live healthier lives. And then from a financial perspective, it's incredibly expensive. 20% almost of US GDP total spend goes towards this problem, or it is a massive problem. It goes towards that. Now, RFK, in my opinion, makes a political mistake because he segues this immediate from that clip to this clip I'll show here.
Annually, it's 5 times the price of our military budget. And nobody's talking about why did autism go from 1 in 10,000 in my generation and 70-year-old men today, right now, and yet my children's generation is 1 in every 34 kids.
So I'm throwing this in because I think RFK makes a mistake bringing up autism. I'm not even refuting what he's saying, but I think he should focus on that first part about chronic disease, which is affecting so many Americans. And certainly autism is affecting a lot of Americans as well, but I think he gets tarred with, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, because that's all I've heard in terms of RFK's position on healthcare is his takes on autism. So I do think that's a mistake. I think you should just focus on chronic disease and highlighting that, because I do think a lot of Americans, a lot of people in general, do not realize the incredibly high expenditure that the world is spending on chronic disease.